Hey, it's Tish Griffin back with you again, certified counselor here with Family Credit Management Services. And today I want to talk with you about an important topic because right now is spring season, spring buying season. So that will be one of our focuses today. But also keep in mind that there is so much information out there that we can share with you, so many questions that we get pertaining to debt, finances. If you are looking for help, you don't know where to turn, I want you to go to Family Credit's website at familycredit.org or reach out to a counselor directly at 800-994-3328. There's help out there and I just want you to know where to get it. So if you're looking for some help with your finances, perfect place to go. So I wanted to start off because it is spring buying season and everyone's always excited to buy. And what I want you to notice that when you're getting into it, a lot of us, we're hesitant. We don't know if right now is a good time. We keep hearing that there may be a housing market crash that will be coming soon. And I want you to think about this. We've been hearing that for years now, especially since the last crash. Every year that was predicted, we've heard that. And what really will tell whether or not we're having that crash is really how the economy is doing. And yes, things have gotten a lot more strict. Our budgets are stretched and they're stressed. Yes, we see that every single day. But whether or not their housing market crash happens, I just don't see that. But either way, right now, we need to be prepared. One of the cursors to the housing market crash in 2008 and 2009 was just really the housing market and how many people were losing their homes. The foreclosures were on a rise. And when you think about that happening back then, it was like so many people were underwater, and that resulted in the housing market crash. Think about how many foreclosures actually happened then. And we've got a little visual or chart that I want you to reference. Now, you may say, that looks like a lot of data. It's tracking the past few years, over almost 20 years worth right there of history on foreclosures and what's going on in the market. And we see what's happened since then as well. Well, when you're looking at that chart, you may say, the numbers I don't understand, but keep in mind when you're looking at those years in the past in 2008, 2009, you're seeing that foreclosures were on the rise. And look where we are today. At the end of that chart, nowhere near the amount of foreclosures that were happening back then. So right now, or in the last year, there are only about 3 million foreclosures that have actually taken place. So for a lot of us, that's a great thing, but also it means that for a lot more, home ownership is not as affordable as it once was. Now, when you think about it, maybe about 80% of those homeowners, those people that have homes, those people that got homes back then where the rates were super low, 80% of homeowners have interest rates at 4% or below. And we all want rates like that, right? You hear about it happening. You hear maybe, when I buy a home, you're thinking maybe I can get that rate too, or I will just wait till rates go back down. When we think about rates going back down, is that really likely to happen for us though? And just because the rate goes down doesn't mean it's going to go as low as it once was before. So we want to keep that in mind when you're focused on whether or not should you buy a home. The only answer really is, do you need a home? Do you need to move? And can you afford that home? So we want to focus on those aspects of home ownership because you hear a lot of scary things about how rates are high. And yes, rates are higher than they have been. And a lot of times that means that for us, again, those rates are not going to be super low. Well, the Fed just met a few days ago. Probably by the time you watch this, it'll be a few weeks. And what the Fed has come out to say was that, well, inflation's not really affecting things like we hoped. So we are going to leave the rates just where they're at for just now. We do want to bring the rates back down but it probably won't happen till the middle of the year or even the last quarter, the third or fourth quarter of the year. Then we'll start dropping rates. And when you see those rates dropping, guess what? It's going to be drastic, just a little bit at a time, a little adjustments here and there. So if you need to get a home, if you are thinking about home ownership, then you need to sit down, do your work, do your due diligence, and say, hey, can I afford to buy a home right now? And you really don't know until you sit down and start doing the work. But the first place you want to start is with your monthly budget. If you know you are paying an amount for rent right now and you can afford that rent, or maybe you feel like you can afford a little bit more, that needs to be your focus. What is it that you can comfortably afford as a mortgage payment to make it each and every single month? Now, a lot of times we realize that when you're buying your own home, there are certain factors that play into it. Yes, you got the privacy aspect. Because it's your home, you can do what you want to do inside of it. You don't have to worry about your landlord needing to get into your house anymore. So there are so many different reasons why home ownership may appeal to you. And if it does, I do encourage you to explore that option. Reach out to a certified credit counselor and say, hey, I need to get myself together. I want to buy a home in a year, few months, a year or two, whatever that time frame may be for you, but I need to get my credit on track. Let's sit down and look at that. Let's think about that. We want to start with your budget. We want to know what you can afford. You need to know what you can afford. And there's simple rules that the counselors can sit down with you and help go through your budget to figure out just what that max is. You can reach out to a counselor at 800-994-3328. And I do want to tell you that they've got this great tool, Personal Finance Made Easy. As you see, my copy is a little bit worn because I use it all the time. But yes, it's a workbook where you can sit down and go over your budget. And the first thing when you are trying to figure out how much can you actively afford, comfortably afford, page 12, I believe it is. In this book, you want to look at page 15. I was a little bit off. 12, 13, 14, 15. We'll focus on your budget. When you are looking at page 15, though, there's a little chart here, calculation that you can do, weight your income that you have coming in each month against your expenses, against the breakdowns of your budget, and see what that budget may be. Great place for you to start, and it's a great tool. You may say, that's still too much. So what I want you to do is this. Figure out what your income is, how much you're bringing in each and every single month, right? And I want you to take 50% of that number, and that will be your rule of thumb. That's your max. You don't want to go over that amount as a mortgage payment. And what that essentially says is that 50% of what I bring in the house, of all of my income, that's what I'm going to pay for my living expenses each and every single month. Now, when you think about that, you may say, guess what? That's a lot of money. I don't want half of my paycheck going towards my mortgage. And it really is. So as a rule of thumb, you may want to keep in mind, let me say maybe 40% of my income. And use that as your mark to say, this is the payment that I can afford. Now, however much that is, that's what your loan officer is going to use to come up with what your payment should be and what your realtor will use as well as a rule of thumb when you're thinking about buying a home. When you are out there doing your shopping, and a lot of people want to start shopping when they get the idea that, hey, I want to buy a home, but wait, I need you to take a step back, just a small step back, because now you need to build a team. And in order to build that team, you need to start with, can I even qualify? What you want to do is reach out to a loan officer or your bank or financial institution, your credit union, to see what options are out there first, but to see what is needed for you to qualify for a home. Now, we've got the rule of thumb with that payment in our head, right? We don't want to go over 40 to 50% of whatever our income is. Now, your loan officer will be able to break that down for you a little bit more, but that's the number. There are a couple of other things that are being looked at as well as far as can you afford that home? And guess what they are? They are your credit, your income, And do you even have the money to afford it? Now, with it being tax time, a lot of us say, well, I'll take whatever my tax refund will be, and I'm going to use that to put down as a down payment on my home. And that is a great way to actually have money to get into that home. But also keep in mind, our refunds are not as big as they used to be a couple of years ago. Yes, we were given a lot of different tax breaks with the onset of COVID and all that came out of that. So now our taxes are starting to look like they did a few years ago. So you may notice, you may think, I used to get thousands and thousands of dollars back, but this year, not so much the same. Also, you will find that the IRS is a little bit more investigative. They're doing a little bit more research into your refunds. And you may see that you've been called for an audit. Nothing for you to be alarmed on. Just make sure you talk to the IRS, get the information that they need from you, provide it. And if you need help understanding or you need help walking through it, reach out to the Taxpayer Advocate Office. Because yes, this is part of getting a home. This will stop you from getting a home if you have IRS debt or if you have not filed your taxes and you are thinking about getting a home. You want to make sure you take care of this right away. You may say, well, why would the IRS know or be interested? But this is part of the process. When you are getting a home loan, your information is verified. Everything that you give your loan officer is verified. Everything that your realtor knows, all that information is verified. And a way for them to verify that is by going to certain databases such as the IRS, Social Security Administration, your bank in some cases, but all the information that you give them has to be checked. So if you say you have an employer, and your employer gave you a W-2 for the past few years, the IRS has to have that on file as that was your income. And that we need 2 years worth of income verified. So if you are having issues, you can reach out to a taxpayer advocate at 877-777-4778 to get some help. They've got access to the IRS's system. They can see things that were done or what you filed, where you may have messed up, and they can help you get over whatever hunt that may be preventing you from getting a home or from filing your taxes or from paying back the IRS. Whatever you need help with, that's what they're there for. Because yes, when you are buying a home, everything is checked and they do deep dives on everything. And really, for your income, remember I told you we need to verify 2 years worth of employment history, or your loan officer will need to verify that information. They do that through the IRS as well. It's all in what they know. So you want everything to work out. You want to make sure that you've got that covered in the meantime. If you have employment gaps, and you may say, well, I moved around from job to job to job. So does that mean I need to wait till I'm there 2 years? Each person's situation is unique and different. So if you got employment gaps and you've moved around to different jobs, but let's say you're in the same industry, then you are fine to go ahead and pursue home ownership right now. A lot of instances that I see that happening is like with a traveling nurse. They may go to different hospitals, but also be involved in different networks at the same time, or may jump around to different networks. But guess what? You're still a nurse. You're still in that same industry. So that does count for your 2 years. And that's great information to know. You don't have to be at necessarily the same employer, but in the same profession for 2 years. And let's say you have to take a leave of absence. Those are normal. Sometimes people will either have to take a leave of absence, or you may lose your job at one place, but you're going to go someplace else and it's still in the same industry, maybe like a month or two later. That still counts. So you can leave one employer, take a month off maybe to find the job or whatever it is you're doing. Maybe you've been laid off and so you're waiting to see if you'll be picked back up. You weren't, so you go on to a new employer. Then yes, all we need to do is be able to explain that. If you can explain that and put it in writing, then yes, we can use that to count as 2 years worth of your employment history. Now, if you've got any questions with budgeting or trying to figure out what your income is, or even being able to tell your story on your employment journeys, you can reach out to a counselor, get the Personal Finance Made Easy guide that I'm referencing, and work on figuring out, can you afford that payment and do you have consistent history? Another question that I get all the time is, can I buy a home if I'm on Social Security, if I have a fixed income? And the answer is yes, you can. That's part of your income. And as long as you can prove that you are going to get that income for at least the next 3 years, that's all you need. And so once you start getting Social Security benefits, those are ongoing. So we know that that will continue. Your loan officer knows that that's going to continue. So yes, you can receive a home loan if you are on a fixed income. Isn't that great news? A lot of people never even thought to try. But yes, you can do that. And your loan officer will work with you on that as well. Now, if your budget's out of control, again, we want to go over that. Make sure that we're looking at your debts. We want to make sure that your debt to income ratio is positive, that you've got enough money, that you are about that 40% mark or so with the mortgage payment that you can afford, and you feel good about this. Let's look at your credit score. We always want to make sure that that score is stellar. And according to guidelines, you can get a home loan with a score of 500. But there's a lot of different factors involved. The transaction will not be smooth, and you need to put more money down. So if you're struggling with your credit, you're having problems with your credit card companies, you need to pay your collections, and you've got some debts that you want to get rid of, especially if you're struggling with payday loans or old collections, different finance companies and credit card companies that are not giving you the way out to repay those debts, reach out to a counselor at 800-994-3328 or go to familycredit.org, and let's work on getting your credit back in order. There's so many people that are promising that you can have a quick fix to getting your credit back on track, but it's not really that simple. Keep in mind, you didn't get into debt overnight, so you're not going to get out of debt overnight. So we want to sit down, look at your debt, look at who your creditors are, how much you're paying out each month, and is it affordable to you? Because yes, we need that score to be as high as possible. If you can get to a score of 640, that really opens up a whole lot of options for you. A lot of lenders out there, they will give you a loan starting at 580. Again, you can get a loan with a score of low as 500, but you want the best options. You want the best interest rate. So let's see if we can get you to a 640 or better. And it's going to take time, but here's the great part. We talk about credit all the time, right? So we know that even though your credit report stays with you for years, your score only looks at the last 24 months worth of history. 24 months, 2 years. So that means if you've got a less than a 640 right now, it'll only take you a few months to get things back on track. So reach out to a counselor, get some help, and let's figure out how to get your debts under control. A lot of people, when they think about home ownership, they say, oh, I need to get my credit together. And so you look at different things, or you're trying to get a quick fix, or open up a new account here, boost your credit there, promise to pay somebody to help you do credit repair. Yes, we want to stay away from that. We want to do things right because we want to know that the effects of what we're doing now are going to positively affect and keep us being able to purchase, making sure that score is going up, and something that you can follow on your own. You want to have someone that will guide you through the process, work with you, creditors with you, and that way you have no issues, okay? So I've got some, with rates scheduled to go down again, we're thinking about third quarter of this year, which could be sooner than you think, but rates are not expected to go down anytime soon. But also keep this in mind. When they do go down, it'll be drastic, maybe small steps. But as you're seeing the rates go down, guess what's going to happen? Home prices will start to rise again too. And we're already stressed with not that many homes in the market right now. So what we want to do is, you're trying to decide whether you should do it now or wait till the end of the year. I say you need to step out there, see what you qualify for now. Let's take advantage of anything that you may come across right now. Get yourself pre-approved first before you start looking. Remember, that means making sure your credit is in order, your employment history, and then making sure you have enough in the bank to actually pay for anything that you're thinking about doing. You want to make sure that you have enough saved up. And I hear a lot of people talking about, well, I'm a first-time home buyer. I want first-time home buyer assistance. I want free money. There is no free money out there. Every now and then there are grants that become available in the community. Not everyone qualifies for those. And for the most part, they're only available in certain areas. Down payment assistance programs, you can use in Illinois throughout the whole state, right? You can use those down payment assistance programs, but they're not free money either. With a lot of the programs, they have their own set of rates. So they determine what your interest rate will be. You can't buy down a rate because now you know you need that assistance. They're giving you the down payment, what's considered the down payment, which is a portion of the purchase price. And for the most part, most down payment assistance programs will give you roughly about $7,000 to $8,000. That's it. You still need to come up with the rest of that money. Case in point, to give you just a small scenario. If you are looking for a $200,000 home, the home and total fees may run you up to about $22,000 for you to get into that home. So that means if you only have $2,000 or so saved, you really do need to save a little bit more. You can get those programs out there, but a lot of those programs like to see that you have some money in the game as well. They want to see you have something saved up. So you need to work on that. If you're getting that tax refund, go ahead, put that in a bank, put it to the side, and let it sit there. Do not touch it. If you are thinking about, maybe you have a family member that's going to give you a gift, you want to make sure that you can document that gift. And a lot of the different programs out there will ask you, no matter where you're getting that gift from, if you're getting it from a relative, your relative may need to prove that they had that money to give you. So, which is why I say it's probably best to try and save your own money if you can towards the transaction. Keep that in mind because not a lot of people out there realize the importance of some of these programs with looking for the free money. You're going to have to pay them back at some point. There are programs out there where you pay them back right away, where you pay them back within 10 years, and some even 30 years or more. That's right. They put a silent lien on your home or a silent note on your title that says, hey, if she tries to sell this house, remember us, give us that money back. We gave her $7,000 in the beginning. We need that back. We know it's 30 years later, but we don't care. So in order to avoid all of that, let's put a plan together, a savings plan where we're working on paying down your debt and then saving for your budget so that when you're able to, you can afford the down payment, the closing costs, all of the fees, and be able to get the best rate possible that'll make it more affordable for you to be able to afford a home each and every single month. Okay? So think about that. Keep that in mind. And again, there's so many different options out there. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to your credit, saving up, working on your budget. If you've got questions, feel free to reach out to a counselor at Family Credit at 800-994-3328 or go to the website listed here, familycredit.org. Request this guide, Personal Finance Made Easy. It is a great tool for you to have. It talks about the steps to making your budget work for you because that's what we want. When you're thinking about home ownership and whether you should rent, whether you should buy, is now the time. It's all in. Can you afford the payment? Not necessarily what the rate is, because the differences in rates can be really just a few dollars. You may think that a rate is so much better. You may think that there's a huge difference between a 5.75 rate and a 6%. Not really. So in order to know what works for you, focus on, can you afford that payment? That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see work for you, making your budget work for you, and that is what counts. Again, when you're thinking about buying a home, save up as much as you can so that you have all the funds that you need to get into that house. I know you may think it's hard, but once you get started down the path and you discipline yourself, you're working on your budget, you're paying off your debts. And keep in mind, even when you're paying off your debts each and every single month, then you have more money next time in your budget that you can put towards savings, that you can add towards your savings account so that you can afford to go into that house with no problems. So if you've got any questions on home ownership, about whether you should buy now, about your creditors dealing with issues in your finances, feel free to reach out to a counselor at 800-994-3328. And then I do have a question that I was asked, I want to share with you. Someone asked me, what's considered a good credit score in this day and age? Now, keep in mind the credit score ranges from 350 to 850, but if you set your sights on what works for you, if you can set your sights on a score of roughly 700 or so, that would give you a lot of different options when you're working on trying to buy a home, getting a car, whether you should get a new credit card. Make that your target goal. And then once you exceed that, everything is better for you. But the majority of people have scores of about 680 right now, 650 to 680. So keep that in mind. Aim for the best. It only takes 2 years. It only looks at 2 years worth of history, so it only takes a few months for you to get there. If you've got any questions at all, reach out to a counselor, 800-994-3328, or look at the website at familycredit.org. All right. Well, we will see you next time. Hope this information is helpful for you, and go out there, be great. Thank you.